And yet there are some people who, unlike Francis, don't try to fight weight gain at all. They embrace it. Sumo wrestlers, known as rikishi, train to put on weight, and some can become quite awesome in size. The heaviest rikishi can reach 500 pounds or more, though most top out at around 350 pounds. Biamba and Baina are two champion sumo wrestlers from Japan and Mongolia. From these willfully massive people, we can gain valuable insight into obesity.
As you can see here, there's Biamba, who's the current world champion, and Baina, who's also trained for many years in Japan. He represented Mongolia at the World Championships before, so he's incredibly good. But, you know, Biamba's the current world champion, so he's just unbelievable. I mean, he's a little over 300 pounds, Biamba, the world champion. He beat guys in the worlds who are 400, 500. He'll take them all down like that. You can see just his flexibility and his speed and his strength.
By American medical standards, Biamba and Baina each have a body mass index right about 40, which is where the category of morbidly obese begins. Since there's only one weight class in sumo, they try to put on as much bulk as possible during training. Yet their bodies are significantly different than those of other obese people. Unlike sumo wrestlers, most men tend to accumulate central body fat, also known as visceral fat. It is stored around the torso, on the back and belly, and within the abdomen. But sumo wrestlers are clearly not like other obese people. One key difference is the way fat is distributed within their bodies. Sumo wrestlers develop what is called subcutaneous fat and not visceral fat. Their fat is stored just beneath their skin. It is easily used up by the body in exercise and does not invade and weaken their muscles. Subcutaneous fat pads the skeleton and muscles and bulks up the body quickly, which is exactly what sumo wrestlers want. But average people are not gaining weight with subcutaneous fat. They're bulking up with visceral fat, which builds up inside the body, invading interior muscles and organs. They also fatten up more slowly than sumos, and they don't work out nearly as much. So for average people, their fat storage does weaken their muscles. A special training regimen allows sumo wrestlers to put on the kinds of fat they want and avoid the kinds they don't.
When these guys enter pro sumo, they do the same regimen every day. The training consists of waking up, usually pre-dawn, let's say 4 or 5 a.m., training the entire morning on an empty stomach, so training 5 or 6 hours straight. And you see them doing the stomp. They do that maybe a couple hundred times in a row. The principle is that training all morning on an empty stomach, you build up an enormous appetite, and they're going to eat much more than they normally would. That metabolic pattern increases the amount of weight they put on in terms, well, actually both of fat and muscle, but it helps them put on a higher amount of weight more quickly. They eat 2 enormous meals, which tends to increase the size of their bellies, not necessarily with fat, but it increases the amount of food they can intake at one time.
Their intake can be enormous, up to 20,000 calories a day, or about 10 times more calories than the average person consumes. This could produce almost 5 pounds of fat.
That's his 3rd miso soup. 4th. And this is just the beginning.
The way sumos and average people use fat may differ, but the process for absorbing food nutrients is the same. Food is composed of 3 basic ingredients: proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Proteins are quickly carved up by enzymes into amino acids and absorbed directly by the body's cells to be used as building blocks for muscles and bones. Because fats are not water-soluble, the body's cells cannot directly absorb them, and so they take a much longer time to be broken down. Instead, it's the easily absorbed carbohydrates, mostly from starches like rice and pasta, that sumos crave to help pack on the pounds. But the wrestlers' rapid weight gain is not only about what they eat, it's also about how and when they eat. Eating right before going to sleep is a sure way to gain weight quickly. When the body is not using energy, it's storing it in the form of fat. Whether at rest or awake, carbohydrates are converted by enzymes into glucose, or blood sugar, which flows freely in the bloodstream so that it is instantly accessible to muscle cells to burn as fuel. When people are resting, their muscles don't need this energy boost, and these sugars are taken up by fat cells. What drives people's weight gain is hunger, and hormones are the chemical messengers controlling the appetite for food. Hormones tell us when to eat and when to quit eating. One of the most powerful hunger-stimulating hormones is called ghrelin, which is made by specialized cells in the lining of the stomach and the upper part of the small intestine. Ghrelin levels in the blood trigger hunger. Levels then fall after eating. Ghrelin's counterpart in appetite control is called leptin, a protein hormone that signals the brain when the body is full.